Hello and welcome to Golden Nova's First Reacts, where I react first to all the things you want to see reacted to first, as long as you come to me to see me react to things first. Supreme Darkness brought us Speedroids yesterday, and now we're breezing forward into the future with what appears to be ARGs. You don't normally pronounce the stars in these, right? It's not ARG stars? I go for ARG stars. All I see with this is ARGs. I don't have any expectations going into this. Let's see what these cards are all about. ARG's Adra the Crowned, level 4 Earth Warrior monster. You can only use the third effect of this card once per turn. During your opponent's turn, if you control a continuous trap card, as a quick effect, you can banish this card from your hand. The attack of one monster on the field becomes 0 until the end of the turn. If this card is normal summoned to activate this effect, this turn your opponent cannot activate effects in response to the activation of your continuous trap effects, not cards, trap effects. And you can banish this card that you control to place 2 ARG's continuous trap cards with different names from your hand and or deck face up in your spell and trap zone. Well, that seems pretty useful. One of the issues, as normal with trap cards, I'm sure you all know it, but for those of you just joining us, the fact that trap cards have a turn delay on them makes them difficult to use in any metagame that's particularly fast. So having a monster that puts trap cards immediately into play, pretty sweet. So when you normal summon it, opponent can't respond to any of those activations for the rest of the turn, at which point I believe you would immediately banish this to get the trap cards. And then if you have this in your hand, you can banish this to reduce a monster to 0 as a defensive option. So the second and third effects seem to be the primary ones, with this one just being here if you have extra copies around. We'll see how that reflects in the rest of them, especially because we're out of the monster zone. We're into spells now, and normally it goes from monster, spell, and trap, so we're probably going to see more ARGs cards. For now, ARGs Home Stadium field spell card. Once per turn, you can pay 1,000 life points for this field spell to add an ARGs card from your graveyard or banishment to your hand. Okay, that's going to be very helpful. While it doesn't grab from the deck, which is kind of the standard when it comes to field spells that search your cards, this does mean that we can pay 1,000 life points to put Adra back into our hand after we've banished it, so we can use its effect to 0 out our opponent's monsters. So that's pretty nifty. Second effect, each time a continuous trap card is special summoned from your spell and trap zone, inflict 500 damage to your opponent. And once per chain, if your continuous trap activates its effect in the monster zone while you have a banished ARGs monster, target a face-up card your opponent controls and negate its effects until the end of the turn. Okay, so this is interesting to me so far because we place the ARGs cards, the ARGs continuous trap cards, in our spell and trap zone. They're not there as monsters. So maybe while they're face up, they can then turn into monsters. Normally, continuous trap monsters become monsters once the card itself is activated, but maybe these work differently. But to find out really quickly, with ARG's Daedal, the Purple Lightning. Continuous trap card. While in the spell and trap zone, warrior monsters you control gain 500 attack and defense. Once per turn, you can discard a card to special summon this card as an effect monster, and it is a level 4 light warrior with 2,000 attack and defense with the following effect. It's still treated as a trap card, and then you can add an ARGs card from your deck to your hand. The effect is, once per turn, you can place this card face up in your spell and trap zone. Oh, okay, that's interesting. Okay, so like we said previously, when you activate the trap card, they're just a monster, and that's it. They're on the board for that one. These ones actively swap between being monsters and trap cards. It is always a trap card because they're always treated as traps, but in general, they move back and forth from the monster and the spell and trap zone. And then it does a little something when you do that. You bring it, you have to discard a card for it, but that discard is replaced with an ARGs card, so it's kind of like it's like filtering. And in exchange, you get a 2k monster, and then if it's in a back row, it just gives a pretty decent boost to all of your warriors. What was the Adra stat line again? 1818, so just with base Adra, we're looking at a 2300 level 4 monster. Though, generally, you're probably keeping this in your hand so that you can banish it to make it so your monsters make it easier for your monsters to run over our opponent. Or at least so that they don't beat you up, because the 0 attack debuff, or the debuff to 0 attack, only triggers during the opponent's turn. Next up is ARG's Capane, the Flying Swallow. Continuous trap card. Also gives warriors we control 500 attack and defense. That might be something that we see across all of them. Once per turn, if you control a continuous trap monster in the monster zone, you can special summon this monster as an effect monster. So this one requires you to have a continuous trap monster first. You don't discard to summon it. It's an 18/18 attack and defense, level 4 light monster, with the following effects. Then if you have a banished ARGS monster, gain 500 life points. Once per turn, quick effect, you can place this card face up in your spell and trap zone. Okay, cool. So they don't always activate in the same way, but they do always find a way to become a monster once they are face up. And then they have a way to go back into the spell and trap zone so that they can avoid, presumably, monster removal. It can never get away from spell and trap removal, but it can get away from monster removal this way. And I think that's pretty neat. Last one we have today is ARG's Eteo, the Dragon Slayer. While in the spell and trap zone, warrior monsters you control gain 500 attack and defense. Once per turn, when your opponent activates an effect, you can special summon this card as an effect monster. Level 4, 800 attack and defense, with the following effect, which is the one that puts it face up in the spell and trap zone. Still treated as a trap card. Then if you have a banished ARGS monster, you can return one card on the field to the hand. Okay. So this one reactively summons itself. And then when it does so, it bounces a card. It can be our card, it can be our opponent's card. So that's pretty neat. And then if it's about to get run over by a battle, we can just push it back into the back row and keep it safe. Though if it's being boosted by our other ARGS cards, then it might not just be 800. It could be something else. But other than Ateo's stat line, which is of course just meant to be disruption, not like a combat monster, our other stat lines are pretty nifty. A 2018, 500 buff. There's nothing saying we can only control a single copy of any of these, so we can go to town with filling our back row with these and then summoning these out, and then once the back row is empty, we can play more of these. Yeah, this is kind of bonkers. I dig this. Especially with the big push that we've been seeing recently of making continuous trap support. There was a bunch of TCG exclusive support this last time around. There was a lot of focus on the Necroquip Princess and the Aerial Eater, but there were also a few that cared about continuous trap monsters. So it's cool to see them really pushing this design. And they're doing it in a really new, interesting way. Like we said previously, these are operating in a way that is not counter, but it's on a different axis than continuous trap monsters that we've seen in the past. I'm kind of stoked for this, honestly. Yeah, this is cool. I want to see more of this. I just don't know where it goes from here, to be honest. Is there an extra deck component to this? Will we be seeing some kind of Time Thief redoer situation where we have a rank 4 Xyz that cares about having trap cards as Xyz material? I doubt it'll be some kind of link or synchro or anything. This kind of lends itself to an Xyz strategy, I feel like. Yeah, I don't have anything else to say right now. I'm very excited to see where this goes next. Will we be seeing more continuous trap monsters, or will we be seeing a focus on more cards like Adra that are... This is kind of funny because normally in decks like this, it's the monsters that take center stage, and then the spells and traps that are supporting them. Even in like trap-focused decks, I would argue that things like Altergeist and Labyrinth are decks that have trap cards more front and center, but they don't operate very well without their monsters. ARGS is the first deck, the first trap monster deck, I would argue, even more than Eldritch, where the monsters take the back seat and the continuous trap cards are the actual frontline soldiers. Oh wow, I'm terrible at brewing, but I want to see what comes out of this. This is going to be spectacular. Okay, well, let me know what your thoughts are down below. You all are the brewers. You have the hive mind knowledge. What are some things we're thinking that Adra of the ARGs, and I guess the ARGs total, will be able to do? What kind of stuff are you looking forward to that we might add to the collection? And what's the lore here? We're looking at it on Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck, and they don't have any additional notes on here. And also, What's the over under on the fact that this was more than a 2-minute read? I think they should put a category on here that's like, if you're a regular viewer, 2 minutes will be fine. If you're a Yugi tuber, multiply this by 8 and we'll see how it goes. All right. Yeah, let me know your thoughts down below on the theme. I'm really excited. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye. Today's episode is brought to you by Dragon Shield. Get the sleeves as strong as dragon scales and get 5% off your order by using the coupon code GoldenNova at checkout. It was also brought to you by my lovely patrons, including this month's illustrious Quasar Commanders, Upstairs Media, and the Wizard Moose, Nebula Navigator's 3rd Dynasty, 50 Gigabits, Ada Basilisk, Adams Ajdel, Oexa Toahime, Anansi Dragon, Ancient Wizard, Andrew Newman, Kane Senpai, Chibi Gohan, Christopher Fuss, Clockswork, Comrade Copperbottom, Eric, Frankie, Garland Chaos, Green Knight, Gloomba 331, Great Big Pillock, Hair Bear, Harry the Ominous Benefactor, Howling Zangetsu, Iron Zero, Iskander 711, Carp, Leo 458, Mana Charge, Marion James E. Picata, Megacombi, Millennia Asta, Mern, Muse Clark, Nathan Vig, Natiel Lee Alexander, Orozco 09096, Panther J, Pat Poos, Rebel King Lucifer, Red Eyes Jackalow, RJ the Jank Monarch, Serenity Towns, The Critic of Innocence and Thievery Coast, Cosmic Crusaders Andrew J. Whitaker, Ariel Kersey, Bedin Von Titty Sprinkles, Beelzephyr, Beluga Masta, Blitzwolf, Chaz Ghost, Dr. Reaper R.I.P., Eki Bullock, Eva Padilla, Hike Boyagian, Herbal D, Ignis Heat the True Draco Slayer, Inblink, Kale the Dragon, Kevon Public, Lobamaru 02, Manga Pages, Matt Simmons, McSpoofy, Michael Shimobukuro, Nitromo, Nyx, Obsidian, Shizuka Nijimura, Sophie, apparently, Stephen Williamson, Taylor Seymour, The Legendary Raven, The Phantom Knights of Shitted Pants, The Pokemon 52, Tiger X2476, Weasel King of Weaseltown, and Zaldreka, as well as the wonderful Starlight Explorers you see on screen now. If you'd like to help me in my journey to cover all of Yu-Gi-Oh's archetypes, get my videos early, be a part of these credits and other awesome perks, it would mean the world to me if you'd check out the link to my Patreon in the description or consider joining as a YouTube member.